You might know this already. I didn't. I feel quite naive. But if you have a podcast, then when you upload it, you don't actually upload it to Apple iTunes or to Google Podcasts, for example. Instead, you have an RSS feed, which is called a really simple syndication feed. And you upload the episode once to that, and then automatically that then will make it available on all of your chosen platforms. So I've actually done an example, a dummy example here of what that might look like. But just to give you a flavour, so there is actually what's called a specification 2.0. There obviously have been historical 2.0 versions beforehand. And I believe from what I've been reading, this isn't a formal specification, but it's just a goodwill, people try and comply with it. So let me know if you think that otherwise. And what it tells you is there are certain elements that you have to have. So you start off with an RSS feed, and then there's certain elements you have to have, and then there's also some optional ones, but often a lot of the platforms have specific elements and tags that they require you to put in. So I'll show you here to start with. So it's XML, RSS is actually XML, which is extensible markup language. So you start your RSS code with this XML version at the top, and then you have RSS as your very first opening element here, and it's strict XML, so your closing tag would be at the bottom here. And then you also have to have namespaces. Now sometimes these are for specific platforms, so you can see here for iTunes, there's different ones. There's lots of different ones. It actually has a link to it in the specification. And then you come onto the body of your podcast here. So you start with a channel. It's called a channel, and then any episode is called an item. So in a channel, you write the main things about your podcast. So like the title, the link to the homepage that lists all the episodes. It has a description, and it's in C data. Well, you don't have to use C data, but it's character data language, and that means it can be interpreted as XML markup, but shouldn't actually need to be. And then you can write whatever category. So like iTunes have specific categories that you have to include your podcast in, and you write the language. And then again, you can have links to various namespaces if necessary. And then you might have something specific. So iTunes, they want you to insert an image in a particular way. So you know when you see the front of an image on the podcast, you pick the image, and that's what you would put in here, a link to it. And then coming down here, it goes on to the actual episode. So similarly, you put the name of it, you put your RSS feed, because you obviously have to save this XML document on the website and then do a link to the episode, which will obviously be a recording of what it is you want everyone to hear. And you have this enclosure, and this specifically tells you you have to state what the URL is, and the type is obviously an audio, or depending on what it might actually be, and then how long it is. And then for iTunes, you also need to write the duration. So you will find on their website, so this is Google, and they actually give you some guidance as to the tags, and it explains here namespaces, and then you've got podcast level tags and episode levels. And they actually give you an example here of what they're meaning your XML to look like, with all the different tags, and it also goes through what each one is for, like specify specifically. And then you also have here we go, this one is for Apple as well. It tells you the metadata, it goes through in more detail, and it also gives you an example. So I find it quite helpful. Although the best place for examples, I just pick your favourite podcast and go and have a look at the RSS feed. I find that the best way of seeing how it's actually put together, all the XML, and what elements you need. Last but not least, I love listening to podcasts, so tell me which is your favourite and why, and I might have a listen in.